Is Michael saying take my money out and put it in Bitcoin, or are you saying maybe take it and put it in a bigger bank?
If you're trying to use money that requires banks, you trust the banks, right? You certainly can't trust the banks in Africa and South America and most of Asia. It used to be Americans thought they could trust American banks. Now they're realizing that they can't trust American banks. So the first order impact of the banking crisis is people think, well, maybe the money I had in the bank's going away, and so I ought to put it in a bank in cyberspace that isn't controlled by the government or by the bankers, and that's Bitcoin. The second order impact is the solution to the banking crisis is print more dollars. And if you print more dollars, the actual monetary inflation rate goes 10%, 15%, 20%. So you think, why do you think those bonds crashed? Because they're actually claims on dollars. Do you really want to hold $1 billion of Zimbabwe dollars? What if I offered you 10 billion Zimbabwe dollars? I mean, the answer is it's going to a nickel. Okay, so if the paper currency keeps crashing, then you can't own anything that's currency related. You can't own a currency derivative. You need to own something that politicians can't print more of. Okay, well, that's oil, that's land. But the problem is, try hauling 100,000 barrels of oil from where you are to London, where you want to be. How are you going to do that? I'll give you $1 billion of land in Central Africa, and then someone takes over with machine guns and declares that everyone with large amounts of land now loses it. That happened in Zimbabwe. You're going to pick up the land on your back and carry it to France? So it's simple. If people lose faith in the banks, they lose faith in the currency. When they lose faith in the currency, they lose faith in the government. When you lose faith in the bank, the currency, and the government, and someone says, what can you trust? The answer is you can trust Bitcoin because you can custody your own asset, you can run your own node. And at the end of the day, even if the Chinese want to shut it down, they can't. If the Russians want to shut it down, they can't. If any nation state wants to shut it down, they can't. If the U.S. wanted to shut it down, they can't. And so everybody wants something that they can trust that is beyond the reach of a corrupt politician, a corrupt corporate executive, or they don't have to be corrupt. They can just be well-meaning, trying to do the right thing in a misguided fashion and meddling with your economic life.
If there's ever been a time for you to make that argument and make it aggressively and scream it off the top of your lungs is right now, especially the fact that 3 out of the 4 largest banks that ever gone out of business in the history of America were done in the last 90 days. You got WAMU was the biggest, which was September of 2008, $307 billion. First Republic was $212 billion. That was May 1st. Silicon Valley Bank, March 10th, $209 billion. Signature Bank, March 12th, $110 billion. And the next one, closest one to it, is IndyMac. If you remember, IndyMac was only a $31 billion company back then in 08. So someone may be listening to this and say, oh, my God, man, if this guy's right, maybe I ought to start moving my money out of my bank as soon as possible. And, you know, Jamie Dimon, I know these guys are trying to get people not to take their money out of the bank and have too many bank runs, because if they do that and, you know, some are taking their money out of their bank and putting it in the money market, is Michael saying take my money out and put it in Bitcoin? Or are you saying maybe take it and put it in a bigger bank? I'm a little concerned, Michael. You sound smarter than me. What should I do?
I'm saying that money is a store of value, and there are multiple monies, and they're not created equal. So let me give you the world's worst money. The worst money in the world is like Argentine pesos or Venezuelan bolivars or Zimbabwe dollars or Nigerian naira. Weak money. The official inflation rate in Argentina is 105%. But that's the official rate, which is that understates it. The actual inflation rate would be higher. And if the inflation rate is running 100%, that means your money is losing half of its value every 12 months. That means that within 10 years, you have nothing. Okay? So bad money, bad currency or bad money loses all of its value over the course of a few years. In Venezuela, you lose all your value in 36 months. In Argentina, in 10 to 20 years, The Argentine peso was 1 to the dollar 21 years ago. If you had $1 million 21 years ago, the Argentine peso right now is about 480 to the dollar. So that's not a 99% loss. That's a 99.8% loss, right?
In how many years?
21 years. Okay. So what I'm saying is you don't have money if you have weak currency. Now let's take strong currency. Well, the strongest currency in the world is the dollar. That's not money. You're losing 99% of your wealth over the course of 90 years in the U.S. dollar, maybe more. The U.S. dollar, the only difference between the U.S. dollar and the peso is whereas it takes 20 years to lose your family's fortune in the peso, it takes about 90 years to lose your family's fortune in the dollar, right? My house in Miami Beach was $100,000 in 1930. It was appraised at $46 million a few years ago. Do the calculation. It's on a path to be worth $100 million, which means that the U.S. dollar will have lost 99.9% of its value over 100 years. Warren Buffett knows this. Charlie Munger knows this. Basically, the bottom line there is your money in the bank isn't money. Okay, so the answer is you shouldn't have any money in a bank, right? The strongest money in the world is Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is absolutely capped at 21 million. It is global money. You could take $1 billion of Bitcoin across a border. You can transfer it to a counterparty, and no government can interdict that, and nobody can inflate that. And so my answer there would be you can't trust any bank.
Michael, but if you call Chase, their customer service is amazing. How was the customer service with Bitcoin when you called 1-800?
There's nobody working at the bank of Bitcoin to steal your money. Right?
Thank you for calling Bitcoin. I can't do nothing for you. You got to make the decision yourself. But I just want to say hi to you.
But, Bitcoin is a bank in cyberspace run by incorruptible software. It's going to keep your money. If you are incompetent, then you're going to suffer the consequences